All right, guys, welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. It is Saturday, September 23rd, and it is UFC Fight Nights. It's going to be a last fight night before a break. It's going to be next Saturday is going to be a week of no UFC, and it's been a while since that, but we've had some great fights, and this is none other than another one. Our main event, Fiziev versus Gamrot, and our co-main events, Bryce Mitchell versus Ige. Just perfect matchmaking, in my opinion, here. You have wrestlers and Gamrot against Bryce Mitchell here against elite strikers with Fiziev and Dan Ige coming into his own. You have the Matrix power with Fiziev against the unrelentless pressure of Gamrot. See how that goes. And then you have Bryce Mitchell just shooting takedowns in his camo shorts against Dan Ige, again, coming into his own and an elite striker himself. So we'll break this down, guys. The way we're going to do it is start from match number 11 all the way up to match number 1. Break them down in terms of who we like, just outright, betting odds, and what we're thinking about bets and what's risky and what's not. And then even talking a little bit of DraftKings, because we do have a DraftKings lineup going on. I love DraftKings. That's when I first became involved with the UFC, or I got my exposure with UFC. It just makes everything much more interesting. Playing with salaries and who's going to get the finish, getting exposures, things of that nature, underdogs. So, and that's one of the things that excites me about this card, guys, before we even get started. I've mentioned it in the last few videos, it's been hard to find underdogs that we like in the fights and the last few fight cards. That's not the case here. I do like a few underdogs, and we're going to talk about them. And there's a lot of questionable fights, even when odds are saying that they're not as close. I definitely think they're going to be much closer with it than what the odds say they're going to be. So I'm excited to break down this fight card with you guys. Again, we are ZT Fully Loaded on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So please go give us a follow, subscribe, like, share with your guys' friends, guys. This is just a hobby of mine. I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's go ahead and break down this fight card, guys. Starting with the first match number 11, Tamires Vidal versus Montserrat Rondon. Montserrat Rondon, it's her first fight in the UFC. She is 5-0, so props to her. At the end of the day, let's look up her profile. It's not the best of records. Yeah, so we have, 5-0, but Invicta as the best fighting promotion you got going on for yourself. I don't know, it's scary to see, to be completely honest with you guys. Yeah, that's not something that you like. It's a whole bunch of trash cans. Yes, she's 5-0. I just think that's just too many question marks there. Vidal, we have seen her in the UFC, so that's a plus for her. At the end of the day, I just think Vidal is going to be better in terms of striking. I definitely think she's better everywhere else. She has the experience, but minus 250 also for a question mark in an opponent. Mexican fighters up and coming in the UFC, so who knows there. I do like Vidal, but at minus 250 on DraftKings, like in the upper 9,000s, that's a little bit worrisome. So I'll go ahead and take Vidal here, but I'm going to avoid it from a betting perspective as well as DraftKings perspective, just because of the huge question mark that we have behind Rendon. And maybe Rendon is one of those underdogs that we see pick up a win in their first UFC action, with the adrenaline rush, things of that nature in the Apex. I just don't see it, to be completely honest. I think Vidal has a better track record of opponents, the better striking, and of course the experience factor. So give me Vidal. Moving on to Mizuki and Hannah Goldie. Hannah Goldie coming off her loss, killing her hype a little bit against Mizuki, who's coming off a 3-year layoff, hasn't fought since 2020. Mizuki a minus 350 favorites, Hannah Goldie plus 275 underdog. I don't know. Looking at Hannah Goldie in the weigh-ins, I don't know, like videos and in training, you're like, man, she's an elite UFC fighter, right? Just muscle physique, things of that nature. At the end of the day, I just don't think she's that good. I think it's more muscle than anything else. And let's look at her record. I mean, she's 6-3. Again, coming off a pretty terrible loss against Molly McCann, which we've seen Molly McCann actually isn't all the hype that she deserves. I think she's just as bad as Patty Pimblett, to be completely honest with you. Just overhyped people that have charisma behind them and have a fan base behind them. That's why the UFC tries to build them up. But we've seen Molly McCann suffer, and at the end of the day, she was able to KO Hannah Goldie. That's just doesn't look good, to be completely honest. And that's why I like Mizuki in this fight. But a minus 350 favorites off a 3-year layoff, that's a little bit scary for me, to be completely honest. Yes, she does have better striking. I definitely think she's probably better everywhere. She probably just doesn't have the strength advantage, as we were talking about. But at the end of the day, I think she's better everywhere. It's just literally this 3 year layoff is scary, and then 3 years after losing is the other scary part. Yes, Andrea, we've seen Lemos improve and that she's good. At the end of the day, I don't know. 3 years is scary. I mean, I'm picking her to win, but I believe in ring rust. To be completely honest with you, I do. And yes, people might say, well, it helps her chin because she hasn't been in those wars. Completely agree. But at the end of the day, it can go the exact opposite way. If you haven't been in a fight for so long, can you still take a punch? Yes, she's only 29. At the end of the day, if you haven't been in the competition, if you haven't been grinding it out, is your cardio still there? Can you still take a punch? Can you still do you still have a chin? It's a little bit worrisome to pay a night 350 in my opinion. So give me Mizuki to win, but that 3 year layoff is worrisome. She is better everywhere else. It's literally just a 3 year layoff that's kind of like making me shy away. So give me Mizuki, but I'm avoiding this from betting perspectives as well as DraftKings just because it's too steep of a price, to be completely honest with you. Moving on to match number 9, we have Usman versus Collier. Collier coming up in weight, was a light heavyweight before, but he's just an absolute trash can. And I find it surprising, guys. This is one of my favorite fights to target today, um, because it's pretty much even money for both. When I think Usman definitely has an advantage here. Don't get me wrong. Usman isn't his brother. Usman isn't what his brother used to be. He's not. He's not a world beater. He's not going to be a top contender. He's not going to fight for a title in the heavyweight division. Like, don't think I'm saying that. At the end of the day, Collier is just terrible, and he's moving up in weight. And we've seen that with other UFC fighters. Like, let me move to another weight class because I'm not having success here. And it works out for some. You see champions do it to try to be double champ somewhere else. In this case, Jay Collier is running because didn't have success in the light heavyweight division. His gas tank would run out. He would get KO'd. We'll see it here. Has been KO'd by Chris Barnett. I think that was like the famous flip and land on his ass by Chris Barnett at the end of the fight. He's been KO'd by him, and that's scary to see, to be completely honest. Because Barnett's not the greatest. Has lost a split decision against Arlovsky. Arlovsky just is, I mean, shells of himself, what he used to be. Feel really bad for the dude. And then Boudet, I mean, we saw him a couple weeks ago. That was our favorite bet to go against him, right? And all of a sudden, um, yeah, losing a decision to him, it just, I don't know, not a great track record. Now moving up to see if you have success anywhere else. Moving up, gaining more weight after you already had gas tank issues. And maybe it's like, oh, now he's fighting at natural weight. At the end of the day, like, it's a heavyweight, right? Like, it's not like it's, um, I don't know who cuts a lot of weight. It's not like a middleweight cutting weight and then all of a sudden becoming a welterweight or whatever it may be to be in his, like, will not cut weight and it's not affecting his gas tank. Like, at that point, but a heavyweight, from a lightweight to a heavyweight, and like, oh, I don't have to cut weight anymore. I don't know. I just don't see it that big of a deal in this case, and I definitely think Muhammad Usman is better. Muhammad Usman will wrestle, in my opinion, and I see a round 2 finish. So my favorite prop of the night is gonna be Muhammad Usman, inside the distance, and I want to say, and I'll probably even put it on round 2. To be completely honest, I'm going round 2. I think Usman wears him down, takes him down, and gets that top control. And whether it's by sub, and that's what I'm kind of like, is it going to be a sub or is it going to be a ground and pound, just TKO? I'm going to say Usman. I'm going to say in the second round, and it's going to be one of my favorite props to fight because it's even money. Usman isn't a world beater by all means, but Jay Collier is just a trash can in my opinion. So give me Usman here. Give me Usman inside the distance at minus 115. DraftKings at 8-4. So mid-range fighter could put up a big score if he does get a takedown, get top control, and he does get a finish. So give me Usman. Match number 8, Jacob Malkoun versus Cody Brundage. Another trash can in my opinion. I don't think Jacob Malkoun is a world beater at any means, but we know UFC is notorious for this. Let's build up a fighter, right? Do I think Jacob Malkoun's worth building up? Not really, but I mean, it is what it is. This is in the middleweight. Jacob Malkoun minus 600 favorite against plus 430 underdog Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage just isn't good, guys. Like, anywhere. Like, he's not good on the ground. He's not good. He doesn't have a great gas tank. He's not good at striking. Like, I mean, and losing decisions, submissions, KO. So any way you want it, he'll give you that loss. like, um, and that's exactly what I think is gonna happen here. I don't know how it's gonna end up because I'm not confident in Malkoun's finishing ability. But I definitely think Cody Brundage loses at the end of the day. Like, I think that's the way this fight goes. He ends up losing. Um, and Malkoun takes it. At minus 600, though, it's a steep price to pay, but I definitely think there's no risk involved, to be completely honest with you guys. So I even like pairing it up like in a, what is it called? In a parlay. My apologies. I was like looking at the games through the screen. I like Malkoon in a parlay. If you find another bet that you like at minus 200, or even right now that we are talking about Usman, and then parlay Malkoon, you can get to even money or plus money for honestly what I feel is not, or what I feel is a guaranteed win. I don't know if it'll come by finish, but I definitely think it's a guaranteed win. I mean, winning against Maximov was a great decision win for him. Brendan Allen is, I mean, he's a top talent. We've seen him recently. He's coming through the ranks and having a decision loss. I mean, not trying to do moral victories or anything like that, but it's a competitive fight. I definitely think Malkoon's come a long way since his knockout loss against Haas, which doesn't look great in the first round. But I think he's come a long way. He proved that against the Maximov fight that he could win a fight in different ways by scoring points also. Um, I don't know. I like Malkoon here, and I think it's relatively risk free. It is just a steep price to pay. But I also have him in my DraftKings lineup. He's the highest priced fighter at 9.5. But playing cash lineups, I think you have to have Malkoon in the line in your lineups. Hopefully, he gets the finish and that score goes up. But I definitely think he's the easiest fighter to go ahead and count as a win here. Moving on to match number 7. I like Tim Means at plus 140 underdog against Andre Fiallo. At the end of the day, guys, I'm picking Fiallo, but this is one of the underdogs that I kind of like. But let's talk about the Fiallo perspective first. First, Fiallo was like one of those guys that came in and they were going to try to build up and then just showed that he's not that great. And that's why he's a minus 165 favorite here against Tim Means when, I don't know, you should be a bigger favorite there. But he's coming out on a 3-fight losing streak. I mean, all by knockout. So does he even have a chin at this point? He just doesn't look good. He looks stiff in the ring. He gasses out. When he had these 2 knockout wins, like everybody was really hyped on him because it was round 1 finishes, and after that, man, Jake Matthews looked absolutely terrible against Jake Matthews. This was when like Jake Matthews turned himself around type of deal. At the end of the day, I don't know, losing to him, and then they try to set you up to fight Salikov, where you might have an advantage and build you back up, and then you lose there by KO in the 3rd round, and then Buckley just absolutely dominated here. I don't know. Fiallo just isn't good. Looks stiff. His striking isn't creative. Um, but I do like him to win, and I say that why. Tim Means is 39, 32, 15, and 1. Again, I definitely do think this is a way for the UFC to keep Andre Fiallo around, let him get a victory under his belt again. But what does victory over Tim Means really do for you? I don't really know. And he's also on a 3-fight losing streak, and then gets finished. The one that really doesn't sit right with me is this one. Gets finished by Alex Morano. Morano is not a finisher by any means necessary. Like Morano is a grinded out point scorer, go to decision, and I like Morano. I like the way he fights. I definitely think he's a good fighter. At the end of the day, he's not a finisher. To get finished in the 2nd round by him, a little bit worrisome. And yes, it was by sub. It wasn't like he got knocked out. At the end of the day, he got rocked. I think he's just older, up there in age. And when Fiallo came in, he was a knockout artist. Testing the chin at 39 of 10 means. I think he can do it, and that's why I think Fiallo wins. But Tim Means is an underdog that I would take a shot at, honestly. He does have unrelentless pressure. We just talked about it. Fiallo does gas out, and he's been knocked out in his last 3 fights. So if Tim Means can put the pressure on in round 2 and 3, when Fiallo's wearing down and land a good cut, or uppercut, hook, whatever it may be, to the chin, we might see Fiallo fall, and that's what's scary. That's why I'm avoiding Fiallo. Like in terms of betting perspective, I do say he wins at the end of the day. I feel like it's a longer shot to have the knockout, but at the end of the day, Tim Means is known for a grinded out fighter and puts you into a war if he can before getting finished. And I can see that happening here, and that's why I would think I might take a shot on Tim Means at plus 140. My ultimate pick will be Andre Fiallo, but in terms of DraftKings as a salary saver, I definitely think he's probably going to be one of the most popular underdogs here in Tim Means, just because he can grind you out, he can take you to decision, and Fiallo has proven that he can last trying to go to decision, and he can get finished. It's just that age discrepancy, being finished by an Alex Morano when you're having, I don't know, a more dangerous striker, but not really a good striker in my opinion. In Fiallo, so I definitely think Fiallo gets back in the win column. Or not definitely. I think Fiallo gets back in the win column, but I do like taking a shot at Tim Means more in a DraftKings perspective rather than in bets, because I can see a way for him to grind out a victory against Andre Fiallo. Match number 6, Dan Argueta versus Miles Johns. This is actually a pretty close fight, to be completely honest with you guys. I went back and forth quite a bit, but I'm going to go with Dan Argueta here. I definitely think he's the better striker. I definitely think he's a better wrestler. Um, I think on the striking department, like you can even say it's kind of split. Both have some good kicks, have some good striking. Not the world beaters by any means in the bantamweight division. Both quick on their feet. I just think Dan Argueta has the potential to take down this fight, control top position, and win it out on the mat when Miles Johns doesn't have that capability. So the reason I'm picking Dan Argueta is that I think he has more paths to victories. In DraftKings, I think he's 8'6". Let's see. Yeah, he's 8'6" in DraftKings. I like that. Another mid-range fighter. I think this is a slate for mid-range fighters and underdogs, to be completely honest. So give me Dan Argueta. I definitely think he's just a better fighter overall. Has more weapons in his artillery than what Miles Johns has. I definitely think the wrestling and grappling, wrestling, takedowns is going to come into play here. And I think that advantage lies with Argueta. So give me Argueta in this victory. Match number 5, the start of the main card, which will be live on ESPN. Is it ESPN Plus tonight? Yes. Yeah, ESPN Plus. Ricardo Ramos versus Charles Jourdain. This line has been flipping back and forth. I like Charles Jourdain, guys. I definitely think he has, again, trying to do moral victories. I hate that I'm referring to it like that. But he has some good losses, guys. And he's just one of those guys that is going to go out there and fight for his money and put on a show every single time. And it's hard to go against somebody that does that. He's on a, I mean, he can build a winning streak here. He's coming off a victory. And then, but against Nathaniel Wood and Shane Burgos, both of them close decisions, to be completely honest with you guys. I don't know. Those are impressive losses. Like those are two top guys in this division, and they were close fights at the end of the day. But Charles Jourdain has unrelentless pressure, puts up high striking numbers. That's why I also like him in DraftKings, just because of the amount of strikes that he throws. 5.78 significant strikes per minute type of deal. I like Charles Jourdain here, guys. It's also a minus 150 plus 120 against plus 125. I don't know. Ricardo Ramos, I don't know. I guess that Team Alpha male is probably one of the favorite things I like about him. Um, we've seen him put up huge amounts of takedowns against Algio here. I think he was like 8 for 13 or something like that. But Algio isn't good at defending the takedown. Nor do I think Jourdain is like, oh, I'm going to defend 100% takedowns. Like, don't get me wrong. But I definitely don't see Ricardo Ramos being able to spam 8 takedowns. I don't see it happening. Algio's just that bad at defending them. And I think Jourdain puts up high numbers. I definitely can see this going to decision, to be completely honest with you guys. But I think Jourdain does enough on the feet to win. I don't see Ricardo Ramos being able to get it down to the floor consistently and hold him down. Charles Jourdain just fights with too much urgency to be able to be held down and not put up a fight. Again, Jourdain goes out there, fights for his money, and in turn fights for our money. So I'm putting my bet on Charles Jourdain. I'm putting him on DraftKings lineups as well at 8-3. So give me Charles Jourdain here. Match number 4, Brian Battle at minus 190 favorite against AJ Fletcher plus 160 underdog. I like Brian Battle. I've never been a fan of Brian Battle, I should say. That's when I watched him in The Ultimate Fighter. I don't know. He wasn't all that impressive, kind of cringy. But at the end of the day, he gets his work done. You have to give him props. He's 10-2 in the UFC. Does look like a competent fighter in the middleweight division. He's coming off a KO victory against Gabe Green. That was a pretty crazy one. Gabe Green just came out firing, gets knocked out. I think that was more like his fault than anything else. But he has that Trayshawn Gore victory from The Ultimate Fighter as well. I don't know. He has an impressive record. He's shown that he can stay around and be durable in the UFC. I like Brian Battle in this matchup, and the big reason why, it's more because what AJ Fletcher doesn't have, and that's size. AJ Fletcher is a strong man, wrestler. At the end of the day, he's going to have to overcome a 10-inch reach advantage, guys. 10 inches. I just think AJ Fletcher is just way too small for this division. That's his biggest flaw, to be honest. He'd be much more fit for the lower weight division. He would just have to cut weight. But yeah, he's just too small for this weight division in terms of height, in terms of reach. And that's what, ultimately leads to his losses when it comes, is trying to get around that reach advantage. And you see it against Lusa, who's a lengthy fighter. Salmelsberger, lengthy fighter. this Salisbury fight was a pretty awesome one. It was intense. I loved watching that one. He can spam takedowns. At the end of the day, for him to get into range to get those takedowns, for him to be able to clasp his hands with the length that Brian Battle has to defend those takedowns, I just see AJ Fletcher struggling quite a bit to get this fight to the ground. And I feel like that's his one pathway to victory that he's not going to be able to get to. If he does, then he definitely has a strong chance of winning. I just don't think he gets there. I definitely think Brian Battle could pick him apart at distance. I think Brian Battle can win just striking wise. And I definitely think he's going to be able to take down or defend his takedowns against the takedowns of AJ Fletcher. I apologize. So I think Brian Battle has a clear path to victory here. I definitely think the reach advantage will be something that should cause this line to be in the 200s, not minus 190 to be completely honest. And that's why I like this line where it sits right now. I'm going to take Brian Battle. I don't think this scores very well in terms of DraftKings, so I'm kind of avoiding it in DraftKings. But I definitely see this going into decision just because I feel like Brian Battle's going to be picking him out from the outside, not overthrowing his punches to afford the chance for AJ Fletcher to shoot. So keeping him on the outside, just picking him apart, and that leads to a decision victory just because of the points off the jab and kicks that Brian Battle to obtain, in my opinion. But I think Brian Battle wins this at a minus 190 favorite. Moving on to match number 3, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson Gomez, the Karate Hottie. I'm a Michelle Waterson Gomez fan in terms of like her training. Her kicks are awesome, funny on social media, not great in the ring, kind of like Paige Van Zandt. Love Paige Van Zandt and her page. At the end of the day, not a good fighter. But Marina Rodriguez coming in on a 2-fight losing streak, that's a little bit worrisome, but it's against top competition. Or I don't know, Jen Doraba, or however you pronounce her name. I don't really like seeing her fights, to be honest. I hate seeing her fights and then losing against her. That doesn't look good. But the reason I like Marina Rodriguez, we've already seen this fight first and foremost, and she won against Michelle Waterson Gomez. Michelle Waterson Gomez's pathway to victory is through grappling and through wrestling. Even though she has those insane kicks that I was talking about, it's through grappling and wrestling, and I don't see her being able to be successful, like what we talked about in AJ Fletcher, to get these takedowns. I think Marina Rodriguez is better and sharper in striking, and she wins. At the end of the day, minus 320, though, it's a steep price to pay. I'm a fan of Michelle Waterson, so that's why I'm kind of like going back and forth. I think Marina Rodriguez wins. I'm not going to side with it in terms of DraftKings or bet on it because I'm a Michelle Waterson fan, but also because I just think that's too much of a price to pay for somebody that might not be able to get the finish here, or probably won't get the finish, and is on a 2-fight losing streak. Michelle Waterson Gomez doesn't have the best track record either on the 3-fight losing streak. Honestly, might be able to see her out after the UFC after this one. She has a fan base because, again, her social media, she's a funny personality, great fan base, great training videos. At the end of the day, just not all that impressive, and it's shown in her recent losses, either by decision or by sub. So yeah, I'm gonna take Marina Rodriguez, but minus 320. The price on DraftKings, I'm staying away from a betting perspective and DraftKings, but give me Marina Rodriguez to win. Now our co-main event of the evening, probably the fight I'm excited for the main event, but I definitely think the co-main event and main event are just A+ matchmaking. Bryce Mitchell versus Danny Ige, minus 205 for Bryce Mitchell. I think that's actually gone up a little bit. I don't know. Bryce Mitchell can spam takedowns. We've seen that in the past. However, he got stopped by Topuria, and some flaws showed up in his game. In my honest opinion, his flaws in the striking. Like, he cannot strike with you. And if he doesn't have the ability to just spam takedowns and get top control and hold you down, that's concerning for Bryce Mitchell. Yes, he has a gas tank that he'll keep spamming if he get back up, which I can see Danny Ige doing. First, I can see Danny Ige defending some of these takedowns, but I can see him getting back up. He's also not one, like what we talked about with Charles Jourdain, to just sit on his back. He fights with urgency, and I think he's coming into his own, honestly. At age 32, he came in, and he had a lot of hype behind him, was talked about in the title contenders, and then just went on a 3-fight losing streak. I don't know what he's done different. Now training with Extreme Couture, great gym, great competition to be fighting there and training with. I think that's a huge advantage to him compared to Bryce Mitchell's gym. I don't know. I like him. He's shown the ability to fight people with intensive pressure, like Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr is just like Bryce, or not just like him, but he's an unrelentless pressure fighting guy. like what Bryce Mitchell is. So that gas tank was pushed there for Danny Gay. He still came out successful. And I think he comes out successful tonight as a plus 170 underdog, guys. The other thing I really don't like what's going on, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the video. Bryce Mitchell going off with his like ex-girlfriend, baby mama, I don't even know what she is, but like she killed his fruit trees, and then there's a video of him like breaking a window at the house to get the dog back. It seems like a lot of stuff going on in his personal life, and then in his press conference, instead of just saying like, "Oh, I lost," now he's saying the fight doesn't count against Topuria. Topuria is the top of the top. I really think he could be a champion one day. I definitely am excited to see Volkanovski and him square off one day. I like Topuria. I definitely think he's at top of the competition, honestly, and probably second to Volkanovski. Or no, I think he's third to Volkanovski. Even seeing against Max Holloway, that'd be cool to see. Um, I don't know. It's not like a shame to be. You shouldn't be ashamed to lose to Topuria. I think he's just a better fighter. And instead, you're saying it doesn't count because you were sick and that you didn't tell your whole camp that you were extremely sick and that's why you went in there. At the end of the day, I think your flaws are your flaws. You're not the greatest at striking, and you had trouble taking down Topuria and holding him down. And if that's not what you can do, and Bryce Mitchell is banking on the fact that he's going to take somebody down, gain heavy top control, and be able to ground and pound or look for a submission. And I just don't see that. It didn't happen against Topuria, and I definitely see him struggling against Danny Gay. I like Danny Gay's form. I like where he's training. Um, I'm going to take this shot on the underdog here, and I'm going to take Danny Gay in terms of DraftKings as well as in terms of bets. Give me Danny Gay as the underdog because he has better striking. I definitely think he'll be able to defend some of these takedowns from Bryce Mitchell. And I just think Bryce Mitchell's coming in with distractions, and you never want to have a fighter coming in with distractions. Maybe he fights angry and gets the victory. I don't know. I just think it's a lot of meaningless distractions, and that's not good going into a fight. And it's it's not like it happened a year ago, right? It's literally last week I saw the video of him breaking the window as well as him asking people to support him because all of his fruit trees were killed. Like I don't know, just sounds weird. Give me Dan Ige as the underdog at plus 170. Now moving on to the main event, we have Fizev versus Gamrot. We have the Matrix star in Fizev and his elite striking against Gamrot, who has unrelentless pressure and wrestling. I like this one's hard for me, guys. I really liked Fizev first coming in and breaking down the fights. But the more and more I see it, I'm leaning towards Gamrot. I feel like this is maybe where Fizev hits the wall and he maybe needs to learn how to defend takedowns a little bit better, learn how to deal with pressure. Because we saw it in the Gaethje fight, and I thought he had a real strong chance against Gaethje. At the end of the day, I picked Gaethje, but I want to say Fizev was a favorite in that fight going in, and we saw Gaethje start dominating in the second and third round because of the pressure, being able to take a hit. And that's kind of why I like Gamrot here, because Gamrot could put on pressure, but in a different way, and that's in takedowns. We've seen Fizev get taken down. My question will be, and I definitely think Fizev can get back up. So that's not my question. My question is, can he stop a good amount of takedowns? Because Gamrot is unrelentless pressure, does not tire out, and he will be in your face, putting you up on the cage, taking you back down. You get up, you go back down. Like he's just unrelentless, guys. He's not, and his pathway to victory should be getting it down. Because he tries to stand with Fizev every second that he's up and striking with Fizev, his lights can go out. Why? Because he's been knocked down. I want to say in his last 3 or 4 fights, which is scary, especially when you're fighting an elite talent like Fizev, and that's why I like Fizev at the beginning. But I'm switching to Gamrot because of the ability to just spam takedowns over and over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and take Gamrot here. And probably a decision victory. If you're going Gamrot, I think you have to go decision. If you're going Fizev, I think it's by finish. Just because at any point in time, Fizev can catch Gamrot, and we've seen Gamrot's trend be questionable. But I'm going to go with the wrestling here in the smaller cage at the apex. That also plays in his favor. So give me Gamrot, guys. I'm going to go ahead and take Gamrot as the victor here in our main event. Close fight, guys. It's hard for me to go against Fizev. I really love watching his striking performance. But I'm going to go with it either way. Give me Gamrot here to win in our main event at the UFC Apex. And that rounds out our UFC card, guys. Let me go ahead and pull up just the recap here. So this is going to be our recap of the UFC Fight Night. We have Gamrot and Fizev. Taking Gamrot again as an underdog. This is one, again, going back and forth. I definitely think they both have clear pathways to victory. I'm taking Gamrot, though. Then we have Ige and Mitchell, and I apologize, guys, if the screen is lagging. My connection today has just been pretty terrible, to be completely honest. So I apologize if it's been lagging throughout the video. I just wanted to get this out for you guys before it starts. So, but yeah, starting off again, Gamrot. I like him here. I'm taking Gamrot. Then I'm taking Mitchell, or I'm taking Ige against Mitchell as Ige is the underdog. I just think Ige is coming into form. I like Dan Ige, and then I don't know. Bryce Mitchell has a lot of stuff going on. He has flaws in his game that we saw get exposed against Taporia, and I definitely think Ige uses that to his advantage. And then Rodriguez versus Waterson Gomez. Big fan of the Karate Hottie and Michelle Waterson. I definitely just think Marina Rodriguez is sharper on the feet. Not a fight I'm overly excited for. Michelle or Marina Rodriguez a huge favorite when I don't think she should be. But I'm going to take Marina Rodriguez to win either way. Brian Battle against AJ Fletcher. I'm taking Brian Battle as the minus, I think, 180 favorite. I just think Fletcher's way too small for this weight class. Brian Battles will be able to pick him up apart from the outside and defend his takedowns. And it's just going to be too hard for AJ Fletcher to get down on the inside. Does have great power. I just don't think it's going to be enough to be able to get on the inside of Brian Battle. Ramos versus Jourdain. Give me Charles Jourdain. I just love the way Charles fights. Always exciting fights. We'll put on for a show for the people, put on a show for his money. Even if Ramos is able to land a takedown, Charles Jourdain fights with urgency. He's going to get back up, and he has a clear advantage in striking that I feel Charles Jourdain outpoints Ramos here tonight. Dan Argueta versus Miles Johns. Give me Dan Argueta. I just think Dan Argueta, they're probably split in terms of striking, but Dan Argueta definitely has the advantage in terms of grappling, wrestling, and takedowns. So give me Dan Argueta because of the clear advantage that he has in that department. Fiallo versus Means. I told you guys this is one I'm going back and forth on. I like Means as an underdog. He's another underdog I would probably take a shot on, but I'm going to take Fiallo. I just don't like him overall. Not very impressive in his victories, but I'm going to take Fiallo here tonight. Jacob Malkoun. I told you guys it's probably the safest bet on the fight card, and that's probably because why his odds are minus 600. At the end of the day, I like Jacob Malkoun a lot. Give me Jacob Malkoun. Usman versus Collier. I'm going to go ahead and take Usman. I just think he's better in wrestling, and I told you guys my favorite prop is inside the distance here with Usman. I definitely think he gets it to the ground. Mizuki versus Goldie. Mizuki coming off a 3-year layoff. I just don't think Goldie is very good, just all muscle. So I'm going to go ahead and take Mizuki, but it is scary at a minus 300 favorite to be off for 3 years. It's scary to bet on, so I'm going to avoid it in that perspective, but I definitely think she pulls out the victory. And then the first fight of the night, Vidal versus Rendon. I like Vidal. I just need to see Rendon compete against real competition. She is 5-0, but she hasn't fought anybody. Invicta being the biggest fight promotion that she's been on. So I'm going to go ahead and take Vidal. And that rounds out our UFC Fight Night, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please, again, subscribe, like, follow. Shout me out with your guys' friends and families. Go check out the college football preview, and you can see our college football slate behind us right now. Clemson actually up big on Florida State, which I was not expecting. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of the day. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. Great college football games, great week 4 slate. And then we have this UFC Fight Night before break next week. So go enjoy those fight, guys. I hope you guys have a good one. Be safe. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for all the support. Have a good one.